Hi guys. Tonight, we drift into shadows where history sleeps and secrets whisper. Have you ever questioned whether the conflicts and uprisings throughout history were merely coincidental occurrences? Perhaps these monumental events were actually meticulously planned by masterful strategists operating from the darkness, carefully positioning each element on the grand board of human civilization like chess pieces in an elaborate game spanning millennia? Tonight, on this extraordinary episode of Bedtime History, we're embarking on a temporal expedition that will take us through the shadowy corridors of power, stripping away the veils of mystery to expose, for the very first time, the reality behind some of history's most influential and enigmatic clandestine organizations. The most sinister revelations and profound conspiracies will gradually emerge as we delve deeper into this labyrinth of secrecy, making you question whether our understanding of the past tells the complete tale or merely scratches the surface of a far more complex reality. What if everything you thought you knew about history was carefully orchestrated by hidden hands pulling strings from behind the scenes? Should you find value in this content, please remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others so they too can participate in discovering humanity's most guarded mysteries. We're eager to learn your perspectives in the comments section below. In your opinion, who are the real puppet masters of our planet? Are they benevolent guardians of ancient wisdom or something far more sinister? Prepare yourself as we're about to traverse through time itself, beginning with the most ancient secret organizations from early civilizations that laid the foundation for everything that would follow. Our journey starts in Egypt, the cradle of humanity's first profound enigmas, where the desert sands have buried secrets that could reshape our understanding of human history forever. While Egypt's surface reputation rests on its breathtaking pyramids that pierce the sky like ancient rockets, the mysterious sphinx that guards eternal secrets with its weathered gaze, and magnificent temples that seem to defy the architectural capabilities of their time. Beneath this stunning exterior exists a realm of mysteries, zealously protected by an enigmatic priestly class who wielded power that extended far beyond the mortal realm. These Egyptian religious leaders transcended simple ceremonial duties performed for the masses. They served as guardians of their civilization's most sacred wisdom, knowledge so powerful and dangerous that it could only be entrusted to those who had proven their absolute loyalty through trials that would break ordinary men. Among the most formidable secret organizations of this period existed an obscure assembly known throughout history as the clandestine Brotherhood of Heliopolis, whose very name sends shivers through those who truly understand its significance. Heliopolis, also called the Solar Metropolis, stood as ancient Egypt's most crucial spiritual hub, a place where the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds grew thin. This wasn't merely a city, it was a gateway, a nexus of power that connected the earthly realm with forces beyond human comprehension. The priests who dwelt there weren't simply religious figures. They were cosmic engineers, masters of sciences that modern humanity has only begun to rediscover. Within this sacred place, a covert assembly of priests developed their sophisticated philosophical systems and concealed ceremonies containing wisdom far exceeding normal comprehension. These weren't simple rituals performed for show. They were precise techniques for manipulating the fundamental forces of reality itself. The priests spent decades mastering these arts, understanding that with such power came tremendous responsibility and equally tremendous danger. They were convinced they safeguarded mysteries possessing ultimate authority, not merely governmental influence over the pharaohs and common people, but otherworldly capabilities of channeling universal forces that could reshape the very fabric of existence. These forces, they believed, were the same ones used by the gods themselves to create the world, and only those pure of heart and strong of will could hope to wield them without being consumed. Their most renowned emblem of authority was the Eye of Horus, a symbol supposedly capable of observing all global activities across space and time. However, This emblem's true significance ran much deeper than simple surveillance. The Eye of Horus symbolized the capacity to perceive across both dimensions and chronology, representing the ultimate wisdom possessed and defended by Heliopolis's priests, wisdom that included knowledge of past, present, and future simultaneously. This wasn't merely symbolic representation but actual capability, achieved through years of rigorous training, meditation, and communion with entities from higher planes of existence. The eye could see through lies, penetrate illusions, and reveal the true nature of any person or situation. No deception could hide from its penetrating gaze, making it both a tool of divine justice and terrifying judgment. Absolutely no individual beyond this secretive brotherhood could access such knowledge, and those who inadvertently discovered their mysteries typically forfeited their lives in ways that appeared completely natural to outside observers. The priests had mastered techniques for eliminating threats without leaving any trace of foul play, ensuring their secrets remained protected while maintaining their reputation as holy men devoted to serving the gods. These zealously protected secrets also concerned the genuine function of Egypt's colossal pyramids, structures so massive and precisely constructed that they continue to baffle engineers and architects today. Contemporary archaeologists generally assume pyramids functioned as pharaonic burial sites, elaborate tombs designed to ensure the safe passage of dead kings into the afterlife. Yet ancient documents hidden in sealed chambers and cryptic hieroglyphs carved in secret passages suggest something completely different, that these monuments actually operated as enormous energy-generating devices capable of tapping into the Earth's natural power grid. The geometric precision of the pyramids wasn't accidental but carefully calculated to create resonance frequencies that could amplify and focus cosmic energies flowing through the planet. Every angle, every measurement, every stone was placed according to sacred mathematical principles that the priests guarded more closely than their own lives. These weren't tombs but temples, power stations, and communication devices all rolled into one magnificent structure. The priests believed they could capture and manipulate cosmic forces through clandestine rituals performed within the pyramid's depths, ceremonies that required perfect timing with celestial events and absolute precision in their execution. Concealed chambers, sealed passages, and subterranean tunnels beneath Giza's Great Pyramid served as locations for powerful ceremonies conducted by the Heliopolis Secret Society. Rituals so intense that participants often emerged forever changed by their experience. These devoted priests dedicated their entire existence to mastering celestial science, mathematics, and mystical disciplines that would allow them to control natural forces most humans couldn't even perceive. They spent years learning to read the language of the stars, to understand the subtle energies that flowed through all living things, and to commune with intelligences from realms beyond ordinary human experience. They believed that accessing the universe's invisible energies would guarantee their complete authority and supremacy over flourishing Egypt, making them not just rulers but gods walking among mortals. Their training began in childhood and continued throughout their lives, each priest specializing in different aspects of the cosmic sciences while maintaining understanding of the whole. Some focused on astronomy and the movements of celestial bodies, others on the properties of crystals and metals, still others on the manipulation of sound and vibration to achieve altered states of consciousness. All knowledge was interconnected, forming a web of understanding that encompassed every aspect of existence. These ceremonies occurred in absolute secrecy, concealed from common people's observation in chambers so well hidden that archaeologists continue discovering new passages and rooms thousands of years later. The rituals themselves were elaborate affairs requiring specific astronomical alignments, rare materials gathered from across the known world, and participants who had undergone years of purification and preparation. Anyone who accidentally uncovered these mysteries disappeared completely, their fate serving as a warning to others who might be tempted to pry into forbidden knowledge. The secret brotherhood of Heliopolis maintained this rigid control to secure their absolute dominance, ensuring their ancient wisdom and its granted power remained safely concealed from outsiders who lacked the spiritual development to use it responsibly. They understood that, in the wrong hands, this knowledge could bring about catastrophic destruction, not just to Egypt but to the entire world. The responsibility they carried was immense, and they took their role as guardians seriously. Yet an even more ambitious purpose existed behind their secrecy, one that extended far beyond the borders of Egypt itself. The Heliopolis priests weren't content merely governing Egypt and its people. Their ultimate objective was worldwide supremacy, not through military conquest but through the establishment of a hidden network of enlightened rulers who would guide humanity according to cosmic principles rather than petty human ambitions and desires. Archaeological findings indicate these priests secretly corresponded and exchanged knowledge with other civilizations, including the mysterious priest-kings of Babylon, the oracle keepers of Greece, and even distant cultures whose very existence has been forgotten by modern history. Encrypted messages carved in stone, hidden symbols embedded in artwork, and secret trade routes established specifically for the exchange of mystical knowledge all point to a vast network of communication that spanned the ancient world. This presents a fascinating hypothesis that challenges everything we think we know about ancient history. Could these ancient priests have established the first global network of secret societies? A hidden system whose complete scope humanity hasn't fully comprehended, whose influence shaped the rise and fall of civilizations according to a master plan that spanned millennia. The evidence suggests that what we consider separate, isolated cultures were actually connected by invisible threads of knowledge and purpose. Indeed, the mysteries originating in ancient Egypt became the foundation for numerous powerful secret societies that emerged later throughout history. The Eye of Horus didn't remain limited to Egypt but became a traveling symbol of power, appearing in the artwork, architecture, and secret rituals of cultures separated by vast distances and centuries of time. It subsequently appeared as a significant symbol of power among organizations like the Illuminati and Freemasons centuries afterward, proving that the knowledge never truly died but simply transformed and adapted to new times and places. The mathematical principles encoded in the pyramids appeared in the sacred geometry of Greek temples, the architectural marvels of Rome, and even the Gothic cathedrals of medieval Europe. The astronomical knowledge preserved by the priests influenced the development of navigation, calendar systems, and agricultural practices across multiple continents. Most importantly, the spiritual techniques for achieving higher states of consciousness became the foundation for mystery schools that continue to exist today. We've barely begun exploring this profound mystery that connects ancient Egypt to our modern world through an unbroken chain of secret knowledge. The secret brotherhood of Heliopolis exceeded being merely a group of priests performing religious ceremonies for the pharaohs and common people. They were predecessors to a shadowy power structure whose impact echoes across millennia, fundamentally influencing our contemporary world in ways that most people never realize or understand. From Egypt, the secrets of supreme authority began migrating to other territories like seeds carried on cosmic winds, establishing a hidden network of powerful secret societies, silently directing human history according to principles established in the shadow of the Great Pyramids. This wasn't random migration but carefully planned expansion, with chosen disciples carrying specific aspects of the knowledge to predetermined locations where they would establish new centers of learning and power. Let's continue our expedition and explore ancient Babylon, a metropolis renowned not only for its mythical hanging gardens that defied the laws of nature and magnificent architecture that reached toward the heavens, but also as headquarters for a mysterious secret society calling themselves the protectors of forbidden wisdom, the Chaldean Magi, whose power and influence would rival even that of their Egyptian counterparts. During the 7th through 4th centuries BC, Babylon emerged as the ancient world's cultural, scientific, and spiritual center, a crossroads where knowledge from every corner of the known world converged like rivers flowing into the sea. Within this flourishing civilization, a clandestine society of sorcerers, astronomers, and learned scholars appeared, quietly preserving some of humanity's most profound and mysterious knowledge while appearing to the outside world as simple advisors to the king. The Chaldean Magi transcended ordinary individuals in every conceivable way. They possessed sophisticated understanding of astronomy that allowed them to predict eclipses centuries in advance, mathematics that enabled them to calculate the movements of planets with extraordinary precision, astrology that revealed the hidden connections between celestial events and human affairs, and most fascinatingly, knowledge of alternate dimensions, concepts far beyond ordinary people's imagination during that era or even today. While most Babylonians regarded the sky and stars with terror and wonder, seeing them as unpredictable forces controlled by capricious gods, the Magi perceived the heavens as an unlimited repository of wisdom and power waiting to be unlocked by those with sufficient knowledge and dedication. They understood that the universe operated according to precise laws that could be discovered, understood, and ultimately manipulated by those who possessed the keys to cosmic knowledge. What made the Chaldean Magi particularly formidable was their capability to foretell future events with startling accuracy and shape human destinies through their understanding of stellar and planetary movements and influences. This wasn't superstition but advanced science based on thousands of years of careful observation and experimentation. From secret libraries hidden deep within royal palaces, protected by guards and deadly traps, they compiled extraordinarily accurate records documenting the universe's motions, patterns that repeated across vast cycles of time. These records were so precise and comprehensive that even contemporary scientists and astronomers admire their accuracy and wonder how ancient scholars without modern instruments could achieve such remarkable results. The Magi had discovered techniques for amplifying their observational capabilities, using specially constructed chambers, precisely positioned mirrors, and even consciousness-altering practices that enhanced their perception beyond normal human limitations. Yet their endeavors extended far beyond science and mathematics into realms that modern academia refuses to acknowledge. These ancient Babylonian mystics believed every star and planet contained supernatural forces, living intelligences that could be communicated with and petitioned for assistance. They understood that whoever could interpret their true significance and establish proper relationships with these cosmic entities could command the fate of individuals, entire nations, and civilizations. This wasn't mere belief but practical knowledge gained through generations of careful experimentation and documented results. The Magi maintained detailed records of which planetary configurations influenced specific types of events, which star patterns preceded major historical changes, and which cosmic alignments provided opportunities for various types of magical workings. Their predictions weren't guesswork but calculations based on observed cosmic patterns. Babylon's rulers understood clearly that their genuine power wasn't solely political or military. It depended heavily on deciphering the secrets maintained by the Chaldean Magi and following their guidance in matters of state. Kings who ignored the Magi's counsel often found their reigns ending in disaster, while those who heeded their advice prospered and expanded their territories. This gave the secret society enormous behind-the-scenes influence that extended far beyond what most historians recognize. Central to their influence was an enormous hidden library housing thousands of ancient manuscripts carefully shielded from outsiders who might misuse the knowledge or lack the wisdom to understand its implications. These mysterious texts included mathematical equations for calculating cosmic influences, mystical incantations for invoking specific energies, detailed techniques for communicating with the spiritual realm, and even controversial theories about the secret origins of existence itself that challenged conventional religious beliefs. The library wasn't just a repository of information but a living system where knowledge was constantly being tested, refined, and expanded. New discoveries were carefully recorded, failed experiments documented to prevent repetition, and successful techniques preserved for future generations. The Magi protected these documents with their lives, understanding that the loss of this accumulated wisdom would set back human development by centuries. Anyone attempting to access their secrets without proper authorization encountered perilous trials designed to test not just their knowledge but their character, wisdom, and spiritual development. These weren't arbitrary obstacles but carefully designed challenges that revealed whether a person possessed the maturity and stability necessary to handle dangerous knowledge responsibly. Those who failed frequently paid the ultimate cost, not out of cruelty but as a necessary protection for both the individual and society. The Chaldean Magi's activities delved even deeper into mystery than most modern people can imagine or accept. Many historians speculate these magicians didn't merely observe celestial bodies passively, but actively conducted secret rituals, communicating with entities from other realms, powerful beings they believed could bestow ultimate authority over earthly affairs. Ancient records describe strange nocturnal ceremonies where magi stood within carefully constructed fire circles, using enigmatic symbols to summon cosmic energies from planets and stars. These rituals weren't simple superstition but sophisticated technology for accessing non-physical dimensions and establishing communication with intelligences that existed beyond the normal boundaries of space and time. The ceremonies required precise timing, specific materials, elaborate preparations, and participants who had undergone years of training to safely handle the energies involved. Mistakes could be fatal, not just to the practitioner but to everyone in the vicinity. One of their most remarkable secrets was their alleged ability to open dimensional gateways, portals leading to realms inhabited by higher beings and spiritual entities who possessed knowledge and power beyond human comprehension. These weren't permanent openings but temporary access points that required enormous skill and energy to create and maintain. The Magi viewed themselves as guardians of this knowledge, determined to prevent it from falling into unworthy hands that might use it for destructive purposes. The techniques for opening these portals were among their most closely guarded secrets, passed down only to the most trusted initiates who had demonstrated absolute loyalty and wisdom over many years of service. Each portal led to different realms with their own characteristics, inhabitants, and dangers. Some provided access to beings of pure knowledge who could answer any question, others to entities of power who could influence physical events, and still others to realms where the laws of physics operated differently. Even more intriguing, historical theories suggest the Chaldean Magi secretly communicated with ancient Egyptian secret societies, sharing knowledge and coordinating activities across vast distances through methods that modern science cannot explain. Some historians believe the Magi spread knowledge of astrology, alchemy, and ancient magic worldwide, establishing the foundation for countless secret societies that followed and creating a network that influenced the development of human civilization. Evidence for these connections includes similar symbols appearing in both cultures, mathematical principles that show up in both Egyptian and Babylonian texts, and astronomical knowledge that appears to have been shared despite the vast distances involved. Trade routes, diplomatic missions, and pilgrimages provided cover for the exchange of more esoteric knowledge between initiated members of both societies. However, the greatest question persists. Were Babylon's mystical sages merely guardians of forbidden knowledge, or did they harbor another secret purpose that extended beyond simple preservation of ancient wisdom? Did they quietly construct a global network secretly shaping historical events according to a master plan that we've never fully recognized or understood? The evidence suggests they were active participants in guiding human development rather than passive observers. Whatever the answer, one fact remains clear. True power on this planet has always connected to hidden knowledge and secrecy, rather than the obvious displays of military might or political authority that most people focus on. The real rulers have always been those who understood the deeper principles governing reality, and used that understanding to influence events from behind the scenes. The Chaldean Magi of ancient Babylon formed one critical link in this hidden chain, a chain whose influence continues stretching across history, shaping our contemporary world in ways that most people never suspect. As Babylon's glory gradually diminished and the empire fell to new conquerors, the mysterious secrets guarded by the Chaldean Magi seemed destined to vanish into history like so many other ancient traditions. Yet in reality, this flame of hidden knowledge never truly extinguished, but continued burning in secret locations. Instead, it quietly traveled westward like a torch passed from hand to hand, arriving in ancient Greece, where a new secret society prepared to inherit and preserve the universe's mystical secrets, particularly the mysterious power concealed within numbers and mathematical relationships. This group became known as the Pythagorean Society, and they believed that through understanding numbers' hidden meanings and applying them correctly, they could control the world itself and reshape reality according to divine principles. Today, most people recognize Pythagoras as the mathematician behind the famous theorem bearing his name, a simple relationship between the sides of a right triangle that students learn in school. Yet few realize he also led an incredibly secretive society based in Croton, an ancient Greek city in southern Italy where the Mediterranean breeze carried whispers of ancient wisdom from across the sea. This organization far exceeded a group of mathematicians working on geometric problems. It was a spiritual order governed by strict regulations, secret rituals, and profound belief in numbers' supernatural power to unlock the mysteries of existence. Joining the Pythagorean Society proved no simple task for those who sought to understand the deeper mysteries of reality. Potential members underwent careful selection based on criteria that went far beyond intellectual ability, including spiritual development, moral character, and psychological stability. They endured rigorous examinations that tested every aspect of their being, harsh living conditions designed to separate the truly committed from the merely curious, and a strict secrecy oath that bound them for life to protect the society's mysteries. The selection process itself was elaborate and unforgiving. Candidates were observed for years before being approached, their behavior in various situations carefully noted and evaluated. They underwent tests of courage, wisdom, compassion, and integrity that were designed to reveal their true character under pressure. Only those who demonstrated exceptional qualities in all areas were considered worthy of initiation into the deeper mysteries. Initiates even took years-long silence vows before accessing the highest levels of knowledge, periods where they were forbidden to speak except during specific rituals and ceremonies. This wasn't mere discipline but practical training that taught them to listen deeply, think carefully, and understand the power of words and sounds in shaping reality. Only those proving worthy through these trials were considered strong enough to handle and protect the society's most sacred secrets without being corrupted or overwhelmed. According to Pythagoras and his most advanced disciples, numbers created the entire universe according to principles that could be discovered and applied by human beings. Everything that existed, from the smallest grain of sand to the largest star, followed mathematical laws that determined its structure, behavior, and destiny. The society believed they had discovered a sacred connection between numbers, music, astronomy, and the human soul that revealed the fundamental architecture of reality itself. The knowledge they protected wasn't simply mathematical formulas and geometric principles. It was transcendent wisdom that could grant its possessors extraordinary power over themselves and their environment. They understood that reality was essentially mathematical in nature, and those who truly comprehended these mathematical relationships could manipulate reality by applying the correct numerical principles at the right time and in the proper manner. The most significant symbol of this secret society was the pentagram, a five-pointed star that appeared simple to outsiders but contained layers of meaning that took years to fully understand. To the Pythagoreans, the pentagram wasn't merely a geometric shape drawn on paper or carved in stone. It represented perfect cosmic balance and harmony, symbolizing the connection between heaven and earth, body and spirit, human consciousness and divine intelligence. The mathematical properties of the pentagram encoded relationships that appeared throughout nature, from the spiral patterns of shells and galaxies to the proportions of the human body and the structure of plant growth. By studying these relationships and incorporating them into their rituals and daily practices, the Pythagoreans believed they could align themselves with cosmic harmony and access higher states of consciousness. During secret rituals conducted in specially prepared chambers, members stood within circles inscribed with pentagrams, using the symbol as a portal to supernatural energies that flowed through the universe like invisible rivers of power. They believed these ceremonies allowed them to achieve heightened consciousness states that revealed hidden truths about reality, enabled communication with mysterious beings from other realms, and even provided glimpses of future events. These rituals weren't performed casually but required extensive preparation, including fasting, meditation, purification ceremonies, and the careful calculation of astrological timing. Participants entered altered states of consciousness through various techniques including rhythmic breathing, mathematical contemplation, musical harmonies, and the precise recitation of sacred formulas that had been developed over generations of experimentation. One of their most secretive and intense rituals was known as spiritual rebirth, a ceremony that transformed new initiates so completely that they emerged as fundamentally different people. In this ceremony, participants experienced symbolic death and rebirth before the entire society, a deeply profound psychological and spiritual experience that dissolved their old identity and replaced it with a new understanding of themselves and their place in the cosmic order. The ritual involved lying in a specially constructed chamber that represented the womb of the cosmos, experiencing visions of their past lives and future possibilities, and emerging reborn with enhanced awareness and dedication to the society's ideals. Initiates who underwent this transformation became fully committed to protecting the society's secrets and devoted their entire lives to advancing its mission of bringing mathematical harmony to human civilization. Under Pythagoras' guidance and inspiration, the society quickly gained enormous influence among ancient Greece's political elite and intellectual leaders. Rulers and political leaders sought their counsel eagerly, recognizing the value of their mathematically and astrologically based predictions about the future, giving the group considerable behind-the-scenes power that extended far beyond what most people realized. Their advice on everything from military campaigns to trade agreements proved remarkably accurate, increasing their reputation and influence. However, their mysterious ways and immense influence soon became a double-edged sword that would ultimately threaten their existence. The secrecy surrounding the society, combined with their growing political power and their claims to possess divine knowledge, sparked suspicion, fear, and hostility among those who felt threatened by their influence or excluded from their circles. Religious authorities viewed them as dangerous heretics, while political rivals saw them as a threat to established power structures. Eventually, the Pythagorean society became the target of violent backlash in Croton, where local political tensions and religious conflicts created a perfect storm of opposition. A brutal rebellion orchestrated by their enemies destroyed much of the group's infrastructure, and many members were killed in attacks on their meeting places. Their secret libraries burned to prevent their knowledge from spreading, and precious documents accumulated over generations were lost forever. Yet, crucially, their greatest secrets survived this persecution through the foresight and preparation of the society's leaders. A few surviving members who had been warned of the coming danger quietly preserved their most important knowledge, carrying it forward in hidden manuscripts and memorized teachings, discreetly founding new secret societies in other locations to continue their sacred mission of preserving and applying mathematical wisdom. Even today, thousands of years after the original society's destruction, modern secret societies such as the Freemasons and Illuminati continue using the pentagram symbol and sacred numerical teachings originally developed by Pythagoras and his followers. This reveals that the Pythagorean society's influence and wisdom are far from just historical curiosities gathering dust in museums. They continue to profoundly impact our world through organizations that trace their lineage back to these ancient mathematical mystics. The biggest question remains unanswered and continues to intrigue researchers and historians. Was the Pythagorean society genuinely eliminated by their enemies, or did they simply transform and adapt, quietly surviving through the centuries in different forms while maintaining their core mission and knowledge? Evidence suggests that, like many secret societies throughout history, they proved more resilient than their persecutors expected. But that's not the end of our story of ancient Greek secret societies and their mysterious spiritual practices. Another ancient Greek secret society existed alongside the Pythagoreans, one whose mysterious spiritual rituals remained carefully hidden for centuries and whose influence may have been even greater. The Eleusinian Mysteries, guardians of humanity's most profound spiritual secrets. Now, let's continue our journey deeper into the darkest corners of ancient Greek civilization, where spiritual rites filled with haunting secrets remain unrevealed, even today despite centuries of investigation by scholars and researchers. As the secret society of Pythagoras faded into history's shadows following their persecution and apparent destruction, it seemed that ancient Greece's mystical secrets were destined to be forgotten by future generations. But in truth, an even more mysterious and powerful society quietly endured for nearly 2,000 years, protecting rituals so secretive that their true nature still remains a mystery to modern investigators. This was the society behind the Eleusinian Mysteries, the most closely guarded spiritual rites in the entire ancient world, ceremonies so sacred and secret that revealing even the smallest detail meant certain death. For almost 2 millennia, these mysteries drew pilgrims from across the Mediterranean world, all seeking answers to humanity's deepest questions about life, death, and the nature of existence itself. Every year, thousands journeyed from far and wide to Eleusis, a sacred site just outside Athens, hoping to participate in these secret rituals that promised to transform their understanding of reality forever. They came seeking answers to humanity's greatest questions that had plagued philosophers and common people alike. What is life's true meaning? What happens after death? Is there existence beyond the physical world? But not everyone was allowed entry to these profound mysteries. Only carefully selected individuals who passed rigorous tests of character, wisdom, and spiritual development were permitted inside to experience the deepest secrets of ancient Greece. The selection process was elaborate and mysterious, involving examinations that tested not just intellectual knowledge but spiritual readiness, psychological stability, and moral integrity. Many were called, but few were chosen to experience what initiates described as the most profound moments of their entire lives. At the heart of the Eleusinian Mysteries was the story of the goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone, a myth that seemed simple on the surface but contained layers of meaning that revealed the deepest truths about death, rebirth, and the cyclical nature of existence. According to Greek mythology, Persephone was kidnapped by Hades, the god of the underworld, and taken to the realm of the dead against her will. Heartbroken by the loss of her beloved daughter, Demeter withdrew her blessings from the earth, causing all vegetation to wither and die, threatening humanity with extinction. Only when Zeus, the king of the gods, intervened was Persephone allowed to return to the surface for part of each year, her emergence symbolizing nature's rebirth and spring's arrival after the death of winter. But this wasn't just a story about changing seasons. It was a profound allegory about the soul's journey through death and rebirth, the eternal cycle that governed all existence, and the possibility of conscious participation in these cosmic processes. Yet these ceremonies weren't simply myth retellings or theatrical performances designed to entertain the masses. The rites at Eleusis reportedly involved secret techniques, special elixirs, and powerful spiritual experiences designed to push participants into extraordinary consciousness states that revealed truths beyond ordinary human understanding. Many scholars believe they used carefully prepared hallucinogenic herbs and mushrooms to open doors to higher perceptions, allowing participants to actually encounter or at least sense divine beings' presence. These rituals were performed in complete darkness inside ancient temples specifically built for the Eleusinian mysteries, structures designed according to precise specifications that created acoustic and energetic conditions conducive to mystical experiences. The architecture itself was part of the technology, with chambers that amplified certain frequencies, passages that created disorienting effects, and spaces that seemed to exist outside normal reality. Participants drank a mysterious potion called Kykeon, a secret mixture whose exact ingredients still remain unknown to modern scientists despite extensive research and analysis. This wasn't a simple drug but a carefully prepared sacrament that required specific ingredients gathered at precise times, prepared according to ancient formulas, and consumed under proper ritual conditions. After consuming this potion, initiates entered a deeply mystical space that transcended ordinary consciousness. Guided by experienced priests who had dedicated their lives to mastering these mysteries, participants were led through an intense spiritual journey filled with strange visions, terrifying sounds, supernatural phenomena, and encounters with beings that seemed to exist beyond the normal boundaries of physical reality. The experience was so profound and transformative that it changed participants' fundamental understanding of themselves and their place in the cosmos. Those who experienced the Eleusinian mysteries described them as the most profound moments of their lives, events that provided direct knowledge of truths that could never be communicated through words or books. The philosopher Plato, one of history's greatest thinkers, claimed these rites revealed sacred truths beyond ordinary human understanding that formed the foundation of all genuine wisdom. The historian Plutarch famously wrote, "Anyone who has not participated in the Eleusinian mysteries has never truly lived, for this experience is life itself." Yet despite its fame and desirability among the ancient world's greatest minds, the Eleusinian mysteries' details remained absolutely secret throughout their long history. Anyone who dared reveal even a small part of the ritual faced immediate execution, and this harsh penalty was enforced without exception regardless of the person's social status or political connections. This absolute secrecy only deepened the mystique, turning these rites into one of the greatest unsolved historical mysteries of the ancient world. The secrecy wasn't maintained through fear alone, but through the recognition that the experiences were so profound and personal that they couldn't be adequately communicated to those who hadn't undergone the preparation and initiation themselves. Participants understood intuitively that attempting to describe the mysteries to outsiders would not only be impossible but potentially dangerous, both to themselves and to those who might attempt to recreate the experiences without proper guidance. Some theories even suggest that these rituals provided direct connections to other dimensions or held the secret to eternal life itself, revealing to initiates the true nature of death as a transition rather than an ending. The Eleusinian mysteries existed not merely for religious worship or philosophical speculation, but to protect ancient dangerous knowledge so powerful that it could have disastrous consequences if it fell into unworthy hands or was misused by those lacking proper spiritual development. Precisely because of this mysterious power and its potential for both enlightenment and destruction, ancient Greek rulers kept the Eleusinian mysteries under tight control while respecting their independence. The priests at Eleusis became some of the most influential figures in society, wielding secrets that even kings and warriors desperately sought but could only access through proper initiation and years of preparation. The priests who conducted these mysteries weren't ordinary religious officials, but highly trained specialists who had devoted their entire lives to mastering the subtle arts of consciousness transformation and spiritual guidance. They understood the precise techniques needed to safely guide participants through experiences that could otherwise result in madness or death, and they took their responsibilities as guardians of these powerful methods extremely seriously. But when ancient Greece fell and was gradually absorbed into the expanding Roman Empire, the Eleusinian mysteries slowly lost their prominence as Roman officials and new religious movements began to challenge their authority. Participation gradually dwindled as political changes made the journey to Eleusis more difficult and dangerous, and eventually the rituals were banned altogether by the Roman Emperor Theodosius in the 4th century AD as part of his campaign to establish Christianity as the sole religion of the empire. Documents and records of these ceremonies were systematically destroyed or hidden away by those who understood their value, leaving historians today only able to speculate about what truly occurred in Eleusis' shadows during those profound nights when the boundary between worlds grew thin. The loss of this knowledge represents one of the greatest tragedies in human history, the destruction of wisdom that had been preserved and refined for nearly 2 millennia. Yet the disappearance of the Eleusinian mysteries didn't mean their wisdom vanished completely from human civilization. Their secrets about mystical rites, consciousness transformation, and connections to other realms quietly survived in hidden manuscripts and oral traditions, spreading through Europe over the centuries like seeds carried on invisible winds. This ancient knowledge laid the foundation for medieval secret societies, such as the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucian Order, organizations destined to shape human history for centuries to come. The techniques for inducing mystical states, the understanding of consciousness and its potential for expansion, and the knowledge of how to safely guide people through transformative spiritual experiences all survived in various forms. Secret schools throughout Europe preserved fragments of this wisdom, adapting it to new times and circumstances while maintaining its essential character and power. So what exactly were the secrets of the Eleusinian mysteries that made them so powerful and dangerous? What discovery or technique was so profound and terrifying that it required absolute secrecy and the threat of death to protect it? These questions continue to haunt historians, archaeologists, and spiritual seekers to this very day, driving ongoing research and speculation about humanity's lost spiritual heritage. Now, as the brilliant yet mysterious light of the ancient world fades further into the past, and we move forward into a darker and far more chaotic era, we enter the Middle Ages, a time when power, religion, and hidden truths blended together in ways that created unprecedented turmoil and transformation. This was an age of crusades and conquests, of rising and falling empires, of knowledge preserved in monasteries and secrets guarded in castle dungeons. It is here that we'll encounter some of the most powerful and legendary secret societies ever known, including the warrior monks who became legends, the Knights Templar, and the feared, mysterious assassins who operated from the seemingly impenetrable mountain fortress of Alamut. These organizations would prove that the age of secret societies was far from over. If anything, it was just beginning to reach its full potential for influencing the course of human history. In the early 12th century, following the First Crusade's unexpected success in capturing Jerusalem from Muslim forces, the Holy Land became a sacred pilgrimage site for Christians from all over Europe who wished to walk in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. But the journey to Jerusalem was extremely dangerous and fraught with perils that claimed the lives of countless pilgrims, filled with bandits, hostile armies, disease, and death that stalked travelers along every mile of the treacherous route. It was during this time of opportunity and danger that a small group of knights came together with a mission that seemed simple on the surface: to protect these pilgrims and ensure their safe arrival at Christianity's most sacred sites. Initially, there were only 9 knights, a number so small that many questioned how they could possibly fulfill such an enormous responsibility. They vowed to live humble, disciplined lives according to monastic rules and swore absolute loyalty to each other and their sacred mission, founding their secretive order at the legendary Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem itself. From this moment onward, Their society became known by a powerful and legendary name that would echo through history: the Knights Templar, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. The location of their founding was no accident. The Temple Mount was considered one of the most sacred places on earth, and legend spoke of ancient treasures and wisdom buried beneath its foundations, secrets that would grant enormous power to those who could find and understand them. At first, the Knights Templar was indeed a modest and humble organization focused solely on their stated mission of protecting pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Yet within just a few decades, through a combination of skill, dedication, and mysterious discoveries, they had become the most powerful military and financial organization in Europe, wielding influence that extended far beyond their original mandate. They weren't just protectors of pilgrims anymore. They were skilled warriors feared by their enemies, influential politicians whose advice was sought by kings, and remarkably brilliant financiers who revolutionized medieval banking. The Templars established an extensive network of fortresses, monasteries, and commanderies stretching across Europe and the Middle East, each location serving multiple purposes and each fortress holding its own closely guarded secrets. These weren't just military installations but centers of learning, banking, and mysterious activities that outsiders were never permitted to witness. The speed and scale of their expansion suggests they possessed resources and knowledge that went far beyond what their official activities could account for. One of the greatest secrets of the Knights Templar, and perhaps the source of their rapid rise to power, was their incredible financial innovation and economic influence. They created what was essentially the world's first international banking system, allowing pilgrims and merchants to deposit money at one Templar fortress and safely withdraw it at another location hundreds or thousands of miles away, protecting travelers from the thieves and bandits who made medieval roads so dangerous. This revolutionary system not only protected travelers but generated enormous wealth for the Templars through fees and interest, quickly turning them into creditors for Europe's kings and nobles who desperately needed funding for their wars and construction projects. The Templars' financial power soon rivaled that of entire kingdoms, giving them the ability to influence political decisions across the continent and making them indispensable to the ruling elite, while also making them targets of suspicion and envy. But was financial control their only source of power, or did something far more mysterious and dangerous lie behind their rapid ascension to influence? Ancient documents, mysterious legends, and archaeological evidence suggest the Templars also possessed ancient artifacts of unimaginable power, treasures that could reshape the balance of global power if their true nature were revealed to the world. Among these artifacts was the legendary Holy Grail, the cup used by Christ at the Last Supper and later to catch his blood during the crucifixion. Secret stories whisper that the Templars had discovered the Grail buried beneath Solomon's temple itself during their early years in Jerusalem, and that possessing this sacred relic granted its holder not just spiritual authority but actual supernatural powers, including immortality and ultimate wisdom about the true nature of reality and the universe. Some researchers and historians go even further in their speculations, suggesting that the Templars uncovered secrets and artifacts linked to far older mysteries. The lost civilization of Atlantis with its advanced technology, the legendary Ark of the Covenant from ancient Jewish history with its terrifying power to destroy armies, or even alien artifacts left by visitors from other worlds. These theories, while controversial, attempt to explain the Templars' seemingly impossible rise to power and influence. Whatever the truth about these artifacts, there's no doubt that the Templars possessed knowledge and resources that gave them advantages their contemporaries couldn't match. Their military techniques were more advanced, their financial systems more sophisticated, their intelligence networks more extensive, and their ability to coordinate activities across vast distances more effective than anything the medieval world had seen before. The Templars' growing power combined with these terrifying secrets and their increasing independence from both church and royal authority soon made them a target of suspicion, jealousy, and fear among powerful political and religious leaders throughout Europe. Their wealth had grown so enormous that they had become creditors to kings and popes. Their military strength rivaled that of entire nations, and their secrecy bred rumors of heretical practices and dark rituals that challenged Christian orthodoxy. Most threatening of all to established power structures was King Philip IV of France, a monarch whose treasury had been drained by constant warfare and who owed the Templars massive debts that his kingdom could never hope to repay through legitimate means. Philip saw the destruction of the Templars as the solution to both his financial problems and his fear of their growing influence, but he needed the cooperation of the Pope to move against an organization that technically answered only to the Vatican. In 1307, on the infamous date now remembered as Black Friday the 13th, which is why Friday the 13th is still considered unlucky today, a coordinated attack was launched against the Knights Templar across France and other European territories. Countless Knights Templar were arrested simultaneously in pre-dawn raids, subjected to brutal torture designed to extract confessions of heresy and devil worship, and eventually burned at the stake as enemies of the faith. In just one night, an organization that had taken 2 centuries to build appeared to have been completely destroyed. But did the Knights Templar truly vanish after that fateful day? Or was their destruction merely an illusion designed to protect their most important secrets and members? Before being burned alive in Paris, Grandmaster Jacques de Molay famously cursed King Philip IV and Pope Clement V, declaring they would both die within 1 year as punishment for their crimes against the innocent. Mysteriously and chillingly, his curse proved remarkably accurate. Both men died under suspicious circumstances within the predicted time frame. Strange and unusual events that followed their deaths fueled rumors that the Knights Templar continued to exist secretly, that many had escaped the persecution by fleeing to distant lands, and that they had quietly dispersed throughout Europe carrying their ancient secrets into new hidden organizations where they could continue their work without attracting attention from hostile authorities. Many historians now believe that surviving Templars joined other secret societies such as the Freemasons and the Rosicrucian Order, groups that would later rise to prominence in European history, and whose symbols, rituals, and teachings bore striking resemblances to what little was known about Templar practices. Symbols like the red cross on white robes, the Templars' secretive initiation rituals, and their emphasis on protecting ancient wisdom all reappeared within these newer orders, proving that the Knights' knowledge and traditions never truly disappeared. The transformation wasn't random but carefully planned, with surviving Templars infiltrating existing organizations or creating new ones that could carry on their mission under different names and structures. This strategy of survival through adaptation and concealment would become a model followed by other secret societies facing persecution throughout history. Whatever the complete truth about their survival and transformation, the Knights Templar remained forever one of the most powerful and mysterious secret societies ever known to human civilization. Their influence extended far beyond the power of ordinary kings or emperors, not just in finance or politics, but through the possession of hidden knowledge and artifacts capable of reshaping the entire world according to whoever controlled them. These secrets still endure somewhere in the shadows, carefully guarded by those who inherited the Templars' legacy, waiting patiently for the moment they may once again come to light and transform human civilization. The knowledge and artifacts that gave the Templars their power didn't disappear with their persecution. They simply went deeper underground, protected by new guardians who understood their value and danger. But the Knights Templar weren't the only secret society wielding tremendous power and influence during the tumultuous Middle Ages. While the Templars quietly built their financial and political influence across Europe through diplomacy and commerce, another mysterious order emerged in the distant mountainous regions of Persia, spreading fear throughout the Middle East and eventually reaching Europe itself through their legendary reputation for unstoppable deadly precision. They became known throughout the world as the legendary Order of Assassins or the Hashishin infamous killers operating from the seemingly impregnable fortress of Alamut, a place so formidable and well defended that no conventional army dared attack it directly. This secret society would prove that there were other paths to power besides wealth and political influence, the path of fear, precision, and psychological warfare that could bring kings and emperors to their knees without ever fielding a traditional army. The story of the assassins began in the late 11th century when an enigmatic and feared figure named Hassan I-Sabah, a man whose very name became synonymous with terror and death, established a hidden fortress high atop the virtually inaccessible Alamut mountain in northern Iran. From this eagle's nest that seemed to touch the sky itself, Hassan created an incredibly disciplined, fiercely loyal organization whose members willingly sacrificed their lives to achieve their leader's goals without question or hesitation. Hassan understood that traditional military conquest was expensive, slow, and often ineffective against well-fortified enemies. Instead, he developed a revolutionary approach to warfare that relied on psychological terror and surgical precision rather than massive armies and prolonged sieges. A single well-trained assassin could accomplish what an entire army could not, eliminating key targets while leaving the enemy's forces intact but demoralized and leaderless. The fortress of Alamut itself was a marvel of defensive engineering and strategic positioning that took advantage of the natural terrain to create a virtually impregnable stronghold. Built into the living rock of the mountain, it commanded views of all approaches for miles in every direction, making surprise attacks impossible. The narrow paths leading to the fortress could be easily defended by a handful of men against vastly superior numbers, while hidden passages and emergency exits provided escape routes that enemies could never discover. But the true strength of Alamut lay not in its walls or weapons, but in the absolute loyalty and dedication of its inhabitants. Hassan had created more than a military organization. He had established a religious community whose members believed completely in their mission and were willing to sacrifice everything to achieve their goals. This wasn't fanaticism born of ignorance, but dedication founded on deep spiritual conviction and years of careful training. The assassin's training regimen was comprehensive and demanding, covering not just physical skills but mental discipline, spiritual development, and psychological preparation for their dangerous missions. They learned multiple languages to blend into different cultures, studied the customs and beliefs of various peoples to perfect their disguises, and mastered the subtle arts of manipulation and persuasion that would allow them to get close to their targets. Perhaps most importantly, they underwent intensive psychological conditioning that enabled them to overcome the natural human instincts of self-preservation and fear. Through meditation, ritual practices, and exposure to carefully controlled experiences of danger and death, they learned to accept their mortality and focus entirely on completing their missions regardless of personal cost. The hashish-induced visions of paradise that Hassan used to motivate his followers weren't simply drug experiences but carefully orchestrated spiritual journeys that connected with deep human longings for meaning, purpose, and transcendence. The assassins genuinely believed they were serving a higher cause and that death in the line of duty would grant them immediate access to eternal bliss, making them fearless in the face of overwhelming odds. This psychological preparation proved devastatingly effective in practice. Assassins would infiltrate enemy territories, sometimes spending years establishing their cover identities and gaining access to their targets. They worked as merchants, servants, guards, or even advisors, patiently waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. When that moment came, they acted with such precision and determination that success was virtually guaranteed. The psychological impact of these assassinations extended far beyond the immediate elimination of specific targets. Rulers throughout the region lived in constant fear, never knowing when an assassin might appear in their midst. This pervasive anxiety weakened their ability to govern effectively, undermined their relationships with allies, and created an atmosphere of suspicion and paranoia that served Hassan's strategic objectives perfectly. Even more insidiously, the mere threat of assassination became a powerful diplomatic tool. Hassan could achieve his goals simply by letting it be known that certain actions would result in deadly consequences. Many potential enemies chose to accommodate the assassin's demands rather than risk becoming targets themselves, giving the order influence far beyond what their numbers would suggest. The network of agents and sympathizers that the assassins built throughout the Middle East and beyond served multiple purposes beyond simple intelligence gathering. These individuals provided safe houses, weapons, supplies, and information that enabled assassination missions to succeed. They also spread stories and rumors about the assassins' supernatural abilities and divine protection, enhancing their fearsome reputation. Some historians believe that the Order of Assassins developed techniques for psychological warfare that wouldn't be fully understood or replicated until the modern era. They understood how to use fear, uncertainty, and doubt to weaken enemies from within, creating division and distrust that made conventional military action unnecessary. The assassins also pioneered methods of secure communication that allowed them to coordinate activities across vast distances without detection. They used codes, symbols, and hidden messages that enabled cells operating in different regions to share information and coordinate their efforts while maintaining the security that was essential to their survival. Yet, despite their fearsome reputation and undeniable effectiveness, the assassins weren't simply mindless killers driven by religious fanaticism. Historical records suggest they often showed remarkable restraint, targeting only those whose deaths would serve specific strategic purposes while avoiding unnecessary casualties that might turn public opinion against them. When the Mongol invasion finally brought about the destruction of Alamut and the apparent end of the Order of Assassins, the techniques, knowledge, and organizational methods they had developed didn't simply disappear. Like the secrets of other ancient societies, this information was preserved and transmitted to new groups that would adapt and apply it in different contexts. Modern scholars studying the history of secret societies and covert operations can trace clear connections between the methods pioneered by the Order of Assassins and later developments in espionage, psychological warfare, and targeted elimination that continue to influence international relations today. The basic principles of creating dedicated operatives, using fear as a political weapon, and achieving strategic objectives through precision strikes rather than massive force remain relevant in our contemporary world. With the decline of the Knights Templar and the Order of Assassins, it seemed the shadowy influence of medieval secret societies had finally disappeared from the stage of history. But quietly beneath the surface of European intellectual life, another mysterious organization was emerging during the early Renaissance, an order dedicated to preserving and spreading ancient wisdom about alchemy, mystical science, and the hidden principles governing reality itself. This secret society was known as the Rosicrucian Order, and their emergence marked a fundamental shift in how secret knowledge would be preserved and transmitted in the modern world. Unlike the military and political focus of their predecessors, the Rosicrucians concentrated on spiritual enlightenment, scientific advancement, and the transformation of human consciousness through the application of ancient wisdom to contemporary problems. In the early 17th century, a series of mysterious writings suddenly appeared throughout Europe, distributed anonymously but clearly the work of highly educated and sophisticated authors. These texts revealed the existence of a hidden brotherhood called the Rosicrucians, supposedly founded by a mysterious figure named Christian Rosenkreutz, whose very name embodied the synthesis of Christian spirituality and mystical knowledge that the order represented. According to these foundational documents, Rosenkreutz was a wise German mystic from the 15th century who had traveled extensively through Egypt, the Middle East, and other legendary lands where ancient wisdom was still preserved. During his journeys, he studied with master teachers who possessed knowledge that had been lost to Western civilization during the chaos of the medieval period, learning secrets that could revolutionize human understanding of the universe. When he returned to Europe, Rosenkreutz founded the Rosicrucian Order to protect and gradually share these profound secrets with future generations who would be spiritually and intellectually prepared to use them responsibly. The order operated in complete secrecy for several generations, quietly influencing the development of science, philosophy, and mystical thought while remaining invisible to all but the most initiated scholars. From its very first public appearance, the Rosicrucian order quickly captured the attention of Europe's intellectuals, scientists, and nobility, who were hungry for new knowledge that could help them understand the rapidly changing world around them. They claimed possession of profound ancient science, particularly in the field of alchemy, an esoteric art believed capable of transforming common metals into pure gold through the application of spiritual and chemical principles working in harmony. But the creation of gold was merely the most obvious and material application of alchemical knowledge. More importantly, the Rosicrucians claimed to possess the secrets for creating the fabled elixir of immortality, a mystical preparation that could grant eternal life by harmonizing the spiritual and physical aspects of human nature. This wasn't simply a chemical compound, but a complete system of physical, mental, and spiritual practices that could fundamentally transform human consciousness. However, the Rosicrucians weren't simply seeking gold, immortality, or other personal benefits from their ancient knowledge. Their real goal went far deeper and was much more ambitious: to achieve a spiritual transformation of humanity that would elevate human consciousness to higher levels, opening doors to previously unimaginable wisdom and capability that would usher in a new golden age of peace, prosperity, and enlightenment. For the Rosicrucians, alchemy wasn't just about chemistry or even personal transformation. It was a symbolic spiritual process aimed at transforming human civilization itself from its current state of ignorance, conflict, and suffering into an enlightened condition characterized by wisdom, harmony, and universal brotherhood. They saw themselves as midwives to the birth of a new kind of human being and a new form of society. The Rosicrucian order operated in extreme secrecy that surpassed even the careful concealment practiced by earlier secret societies. Members took strict vows of silence regarding everything they learned, understanding that premature revelation of their knowledge could lead to persecution by religious authorities or misuse by those who lacked proper spiritual development. Their meetings took place in hidden chambers specifically designed for their work and adorned with mystical symbols that encoded layers of meaning. The most important symbols of the order were the rose and the cross, two powerful emblems that when combined symbolized the union of the physical and spiritual worlds, the marriage of science and religion, and the integration of human love with divine wisdom. The rose represented the unfolding of spiritual consciousness, while the cross symbolized the intersection of divine and human nature in the perfected individual. Although they always worked behind the scenes and avoided public attention, the Rosicrucian order profoundly influenced Renaissance Europe and the subsequent development of modern science and philosophy. Many famous scientists and philosophers, including Isaac Newton, René Descartes, and Francis Bacon, were believed to have been influenced by the secret writings and teachings of the Rosicrucians, even if they weren't formal members of the organization. Newton himself, despite his public reputation as a rational scientist, dedicated much of his private life to studying alchemy and ancient texts that scholars believe originated with the Rosicrucian tradition. His revolutionary discoveries in physics and mathematics may have been inspired by mystical insights gained through alchemical practices rather than purely rational investigation, suggesting that the boundary between science and spirituality was much more fluid than most people realize. Some theories propose even more dramatic connections, suggesting the Rosicrucians were the direct inheritors of secret wisdom from earlier orders like the Knights Templar, forming an unbroken chain of hidden knowledge that stretched back to ancient Egypt and beyond. This would mean that the Renaissance flowering of art, science, and philosophy wasn't simply a natural cultural development, but the result of carefully preserved ancient wisdom being gradually released into human consciousness. One of the Rosicrucians' most startling and controversial secrets was supposedly their detailed knowledge of the legendary lost civilization of Atlantis, which they claimed had achieved levels of spiritual and technological development that modern humanity was only beginning to approach. According to Rosicrucian teachings, Atlantis had been destroyed by natural disasters that resulted from the misuse of advanced knowledge by those who lacked sufficient spiritual development to handle such power responsibly. The Rosicrucian alchemists claimed that Atlantis was the original source of their profound spiritual and scientific teachings, and that they possessed rare artifacts and manuscripts that had somehow survived the catastrophic destruction of that ancient civilization. These materials supposedly contained blueprints for technologies and techniques that could revolutionize human understanding of energy, consciousness, and the fundamental structure of reality itself. But the Rosicrucians understood the dangers inherent in releasing such powerful knowledge too quickly or to unprepared individuals. They believed that the same spiritual immaturity that had led to Atlantis's destruction continued to characterize human civilization, making it essential to proceed slowly and carefully in sharing their most important secrets. Only when humanity had developed sufficient wisdom and ethical development could these ultimate mysteries be safely revealed. Yet the Rosicrucians didn't limit themselves merely to preserving ancient history or pursuing alchemical experiments in isolation from the world around them. They believed they were laying the foundation for a much greater intellectual revolution, a new era in which science, spirituality, and philosophy would unite in a grand synthesis that would elevate humanity to an entirely new level of consciousness and capability. Their vision extended beyond personal transformation to encompass the complete restructuring of human society according to principles of harmony, wisdom, and divine order. They saw themselves as architects of a new world where war, poverty, and ignorance would be eliminated through the proper application of spiritual science and enlightened governance based on cosmic principles rather than human ambition. This utopian vision wasn't simply wishful thinking but a carefully planned program for gradual social transformation that would unfold over centuries as increasing numbers of individuals achieved the level of consciousness necessary to implement their principles. The Rosicrucians believed that by working quietly within existing institutions, universities, churches, governments, and scientific societies, they could gradually influence the development of human civilization in positive directions. However secretive their methods, the Rosicrucians left clear footprints that shaped many subsequent secret societies and mystical movements. Countless rituals, symbols, and philosophical concepts that originated with the Rosicrucians were inherited by groups such as the Freemasons and Illuminati, becoming cornerstones of mystical and spiritual movements that continue to influence modern history in ways that most people never recognize. The Rosicrucian emphasis on combining spiritual development with scientific investigation established a template that would be followed by numerous later organizations seeking to bridge the gap between material and mystical knowledge. Their insistence on gradual, careful revelation of secret wisdom to properly prepared individuals became a standard practice among esoteric societies worldwide. Even their organizational structure, with its emphasis on autonomous local groups connected by shared principles rather than centralized authority, provided a model that would be adopted by revolutionary movements, scientific societies, and spiritual organizations that needed to operate effectively while maintaining security and flexibility in the face of changing circumstances. So what exactly did the Rosicrucian order discover during their centuries of secret research and experimentation? Did their claims about alchemy, spiritual transformation, and ancient wisdom represent genuine knowledge? Or were they elaborate myths crafted to conceal something far different and perhaps more earthly in nature? These questions continue to intrigue researchers and spiritual seekers who study the historical record for clues about humanity's hidden potential. To seek answers to these mysteries, we must follow history's path onward from the Renaissance into the Enlightenment and modern times, where we encounter another secret society that claimed to have directly inherited the Rosicrucians' and Knights Templars' mystical knowledge. The Freemasons, who would become the architects of a new world order whose hidden influence still resonates profoundly throughout our contemporary civilization. Although the Freemasons officially emerged as a recognizable organization in early 18th century England during a period of social and political transformation, the true origins of this influential secret society extend much further back in time and involve connections that are far more mysterious and significant than most people realize. Many researchers believe that Freemasonry evolved from medieval guilds of stonemasons, the highly skilled craftsmen who built Europe's magnificent cathedrals, castles, and palaces using techniques and knowledge that seemed almost supernatural to their contemporaries. But other theories suggest something even more intriguing and historically significant: that the Freemasons directly inherited ancient secrets from earlier secret societies such as the Knights Templar and the Rosicrucian Order, making them custodians of wisdom that stretched back through millennia of hidden tradition. This would mean that Freemasonry wasn't simply a social club for craftsmen, but a repository for humanity's most profound spiritual and scientific knowledge. From the moment Freemasonry emerged as a distinct organization, it expanded with remarkable speed and effectiveness, quickly becoming the largest and most influential secret society in the world. It attracted countless political leaders, scientists, philosophers, authors, and other powerful figures of their time who were drawn by the promise of ancient wisdom and brotherhood that transcended the ordinary boundaries of nationality, religion, and social class. But what made Freemasons truly extraordinary wasn't merely their impressive and influential membership roster or their rapid global expansion. It was the secret goal they pursued with unwavering dedication: to build a new world order that would reshape human society according to the ancient wisdom and hidden principles they claimed to have preserved from earlier civilizations and secret traditions. This wasn't simply a political agenda or economic program, but a comprehensive vision of human transformation that encompassed every aspect of civilization, government, religion, education, science, art, and commerce. The Freemasons believed they possessed the keys to creating a harmonious world society based on reason, justice, and spiritual enlightenment, rather than the ignorance, superstition, and conflict that had characterized most of human history. The Freemasons operated within a highly structured hierarchy that reflected their understanding of spiritual development and initiation into progressively deeper levels of knowledge and responsibility. New members underwent mysterious initiation ceremonies that combined symbolic death and rebirth with the transmission of secret knowledge, ancient symbols, and sacred obligations that bound them to the brotherhood for life. These rituals weren't mere theatrical performances or social bonding exercises, but carefully designed experiences intended to trigger profound psychological and spiritual transformations in the participants. The ceremonies used ancient symbols, dramatic reenactments of mythical events, and exposure to hidden teachings that were designed to awaken dormant potentials in human consciousness and align the initiate with cosmic principles. Members took strict vows never to reveal the rituals, knowledge, and activities they encountered within their secret meetings, understanding that premature disclosure could not only endanger the organization but potentially harm individuals who weren't prepared to handle such powerful information responsibly. The penalties for breaking these vows were severe, though whether they were ever actually enforced remains a matter of historical debate. The Freemasons used ancient symbols whose meanings extended far beyond their obvious interpretations, most famously the compass and square, the traditional tools of builders that represented much more than simple geometric instruments. The compass symbolized the spiritual realm and divine principles that govern the universe, while the square represented the material world and human efforts to create order and harmony within physical reality. When combined, these symbols represented the perfect balance between the material and spiritual worlds that Freemasons sought to achieve both individually and collectively. The goal wasn't to reject either realm, but to integrate them in a harmonious synthesis that would enable human beings to function effectively in the physical world while remaining connected to higher spiritual principles and cosmic wisdom. Yet Freemasonry wasn't merely a secretive club or philosophical society concerned only with abstract ideas and personal development. It was an organization actively influencing power on a global scale, with members who held key positions in governments, military forces, banks, corporations, and cultural institutions throughout the world. Many of history's most significant events clearly show evidence of Masonic involvement and influence. The American Revolution of 1776, which established the first modern republic based on principles of individual liberty and representative government, involved numerous prominent Freemasons in leadership roles. The French Revolution of 1789, which overthrew the monarchy and established revolutionary principles that would transform European politics, similarly showed clear signs of Masonic influence and participation. Countless other critical turning points in European and world history bear the fingerprints of Masonic involvement, from the unification of Italy and Germany to the establishment of democratic governments throughout Latin America. The pattern suggests a coordinated effort to reshape global politics according to Masonic principles rather than simply coincidental participation by individual members. Even today, Freemason symbols appear prominently in iconic landmarks worldwide, especially in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States, where the city's layout, major buildings, and monuments contain numerous references to Masonic symbolism and principles. This isn't coincidental decoration but deliberate encoding of Masonic teachings into the physical structure of American government. Many of America's founding fathers and most influential early leaders were high-ranking Freemasons who understood the symbolic significance of architectural and urban planning decisions. Famous buildings such as the White House, the Washington Monument, and the U.S. Capitol contain hidden symbolic codes and geometric relationships that can only be fully understood by those familiar with Masonic teachings and traditions. But Masonic influence wasn't limited to politics, architecture, or even economics. The Freemasons saw themselves as custodians of ancient wisdom that stretched back through recorded history to the earliest civilizations like Egypt, Babylon, and Greece, as well as to earlier powerful secret societies whose knowledge they had inherited and preserved through centuries of persecution and social change. They believed they safeguarded ultimate secrets about the true nature of the universe, the hidden structure of reality, and humanity's purpose and potential within the cosmic order. This wasn't simply philosophical speculation but practical knowledge that could be applied to transform both individual consciousness and collective human civilization according to divine principles. Freemasons' secret rituals were designed to elevate members' consciousness through a carefully structured process of initiation that gradually revealed deeper levels of understanding and responsibility. Advanced members were believed to possess knowledge of alchemy, sacred geometry, astronomical cycles, and the subtle energies that influenced human behavior and historical events. Senior Freemasons were rumored to hold even more advanced knowledge that included understanding of dimensions beyond ordinary perception, techniques for influencing events through the application of will and intention, and even the ability to contact supernatural forces and spiritual intelligences that could provide guidance and assistance in shaping human history according to divine will. Over the centuries since its emergence, Freemasonry built a vast global network that eventually included millions of members in virtually every country on Earth. This network provided a means of communication and coordination that transcended national boundaries, religious differences, and political conflicts, creating a kind of shadow infrastructure for international cooperation and influence. Prominent political leaders throughout history, including numerous American presidents like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Franklin D. Roosevelt, as well as influential figures such as Benjamin Franklin, Winston Churchill, and countless others, were proud members of this exclusive brotherhood. Their Masonic connections provided additional channels for diplomacy, negotiation, and cooperation that operated alongside official government channels. This has led many researchers and critics to question whether the Freemasons truly control world affairs from behind the scenes, operating as a kind of shadow government that transcends national boundaries and democratic processes, or whether they are simply preserving noble intellectual and moral traditions while providing networking opportunities for influential individuals as they publicly claim. Whatever the complete truth about their ultimate goals and methods, no honest observer can deny the immense hidden influence that Freemasonry has wielded throughout modern history. Their secrets are far-reaching and profound. Their membership roster includes some of history's most powerful individuals, and their influence extends far beyond economics or politics into the fundamental structures of human civilization itself. The Freemasons' impact on education, science, philosophy, and culture has been equally significant, though often less visible than their political influence. Many of the universities, libraries, scientific societies, and cultural institutions that form the backbone of modern civilization were founded or significantly influenced by Freemasons who understood the importance of controlling the development and dissemination of knowledge. This educational influence wasn't coincidental but reflected the Masonic understanding that true power comes from shaping how people think rather than simply controlling what they do. By influencing educational curricula, scientific research priorities, and cultural values, Freemasonry could guide the development of human consciousness in directions that aligned with their long-term goals for planetary transformation. Yet Freemasonry was not the only secret society in recent history with ambitions to create a new world order according to hidden principles and ancient wisdom. Another group, far more mysterious, ambitious, and potentially dangerous, was quietly emerging in 18th-century Europe with goals that would make even the Freemasons' plans seem modest by comparison. This organization called themselves the Illuminati, and their story represents one of the most controversial and frightening chapters in the history of secret societies. The very name Illuminati, meaning the Enlightened Ones, reveals their fundamental belief that they possessed superior knowledge and wisdom that qualified them to guide or control the destiny of humanity according to principles that ordinary people could never understand or appreciate. The Illuminati was officially founded on May 1, 1776, the same year as the American Declaration of Independence, by a young German law professor named Adam Weishaupt in Bavaria, present-day Germany. This timing wasn't coincidental, as both events reflected the broader revolutionary spirit of the age and the growing belief that traditional forms of authority and social organization were obsolete and needed to be replaced by systems based on reason and enlightenment rather than tradition and religious faith. At first, this secret society appeared to be just a small group of intellectuals, university professors, and progressive thinkers who were opposed to the dominance of Europe's royal families, aristocratic privileges, and religious authorities that they viewed as obstacles to human progress and social justice. They pursued what seemed like a noble and ambitious ideal, creating a completely new world order based on scientific rationality and universal human rights rather than inherited privilege and religious dogma. But the deeper, more sinister goal of the Illuminati, which gradually became apparent as the organization developed and expanded, stunned and terrified those who learned of it through leaked documents and testimony from former members. They believed that to establish their new world order, they first needed to gain absolute control over the existing world through infiltration, manipulation, and gradual subversion of all major institutions of power and influence. Members of the Illuminati were convinced that only those who were truly enlightened, who possessed ultimate knowledge about human nature, social organization, and historical processes, deserved to control and lead humanity toward its proper destiny. They were prepared to use any means necessary, from subtle psychological manipulation and political intrigue to inciting wars and revolutions, to achieve their ultimate aim of establishing themselves as the secret rulers of a transformed world. From its inception, the Illuminati demonstrated remarkable skill in expanding its network and influence, carefully infiltrating other powerful secret societies, especially the Freemasons, whose existing structure and membership provided perfect cover for Illuminati operations. Adam Weishaupt and his associates realized that the swiftest path to absolute power wasn't open confrontation with existing authorities, but rather quietly controlling influential organizations from within while remaining invisible to outsiders. The Illuminati executed this strategy of infiltration and subversion so skillfully and discreetly that even the highest-ranking Freemasons often had no idea their own organization was being secretly manipulated and directed by members of another society with very different goals and methods. This technique of nested secret societies, secret groups operating within other secret groups, became a model that would be copied by numerous later organizations. The Illuminati's methods were sophisticated, ruthless, and psychologically astute. They relied on elaborate secret ceremonies that created intense bonds of loyalty and secrecy among members, strict oaths of silence that were enforced through various forms of intimidation and punishment, and a rigid hierarchical structure that ensured only the most elite and trusted members ever knew the group's true purpose and ultimate objectives. Powerful symbols played a crucial role in communicating hidden messages and maintaining group cohesion among members who might be scattered across different countries and operating in different social contexts. The most famous Illuminati symbol was the pyramid with the all-seeing eye, representing their goal of complete surveillance and control over the world, while remaining hidden at the apex of a power structure that most people never suspected existed. This symbol wasn't simply decorative but encoded important information about the organization's structure and methods. The pyramid represented the hierarchical organization of society with enlightened elite at the top and masses of ordinary people at the bottom, while the eye symbolized the constant surveillance and hidden knowledge that enabled the illuminated ones to maintain their control while remaining invisible to those below them. One of the Illuminati's most terrifying and effective strategies was their ability to manipulate major historical events, particularly revolutions and wars that served their long-term goals while appearing to be natural results of social and political tensions. Many historians now believe the Illuminati secretly orchestrated or significantly influenced the French Revolution of 1789, which overthrew the monarchy and established revolutionary principles that would transform European politics according to Illuminati ideals. The revolution's famous slogan, "Liberty, Equality, Fraternity," reflected Illuminati principles, while the systematic destruction of traditional religious and political authorities created exactly the kind of chaos and social transformation that would enable enlightened minorities to establish new forms of control. Similar patterns can be detected in revolutionary movements across Europe during the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Within less than a decade of its founding, the Illuminati had grown powerful enough to alarm Europe's ruling elites, who began to recognize the threat posed by an organization that explicitly sought to overthrow existing authorities and replace them with a hidden government of self-proclaimed enlightened individuals. In 1785, Bavarian authorities launched an investigation that uncovered extensive evidence of the group's ambitious plans and subversive activities. The discovery led to an official ban on the society, the arrest of numerous members, and the confiscation and destruction of thousands of their secret documents that revealed the scope and methods of their conspiracy. To the outside world, it appeared that the world's most dangerous secret society had been completely destroyed and its threat to established order permanently eliminated. But appearances were deceiving, and the apparent destruction of the Illuminati was merely the end of their public visibility rather than their actual elimination. Historical evidence strongly suggests the Illuminati never truly disappeared but simply went deeper underground, continuing their work more carefully and covertly within other organizations, particularly the Freemasons and various revolutionary and intellectual movements that emerged throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Rather than abandoning their goals, the Illuminati adapted their methods to become even more sophisticated and difficult to detect. They learned to operate through multiple layers of intermediary organizations, to avoid creating written records that could incriminate them, and to work through apparently unconnected individuals and groups that could pursue Illuminati objectives while maintaining plausible deniability about any coordination or central direction. Many of the major events that shaped modern history, From world wars and economic crises to social revolutions and cultural transformations, bear characteristics that suggest hidden coordination and manipulation by groups working according to principles and methods that were first developed by the original Illuminati. The patterns are too consistent and the outcomes too beneficial to certain interests to be explained by coincidence or natural historical development. Prominent politicians and world leaders throughout the modern era have often seemed to function as pawns in elaborate chess games whose rules and objectives remain hidden from public view. Their decisions and policies frequently serve interests that extend beyond their apparent constituencies while following strategies that suggest coordination and planning that transcends normal political processes and democratic decision-making. Even today, many researchers and critics believe the Illuminati secretly controls major global industries such as entertainment, media, finance, and technology, using these platforms as powerful tools to shape public opinion, influence cultural values, and control the flow of information that determines how billions of people understand reality and make decisions about their lives and societies. The techniques pioneered by the historical Illuminati, infiltration of existing institutions, manipulation through carefully crafted propaganda, and coordination through hidden networks of influential individuals, have been refined and adapted to take advantage of modern communication technologies and global economic systems that make such influence both more powerful and more difficult to detect than ever before. Major scandals, shocking world events, and apparent crises are often interpreted by those who understand Illuminati methods as carefully planned moves designed to advance hidden agendas, while appearing to be natural results of social, political, or economic forces. The level of coordination and the consistency of outcomes suggest planning and resources that could only be provided by organizations with global reach and long-term perspectives. Yet one haunting question continues to perplex researchers and concern thoughtful observers. Does the Illuminati really exist today as an active organization secretly guiding world events from behind the scenes, or has it evolved into something different, perhaps a set of principles, methods, and networks that operate without central control but achieve similar results through shared understanding and common interests? Whatever the answer to that question, one thing remains undeniable. The Illuminati has become the most powerful symbol in modern culture, representing ultimate power, deep conspiracies, hidden manipulation, and the chilling possibility that the entire world is quietly controlled by a small group of individuals who remain invisible to the masses they rule through deception and misdirection. The story doesn't end with the historical Illuminati, because as they retreated into deeper secrecy following their exposure and persecution in Europe, another secret society quietly emerged in America during the early 19th century. This new organization would prove to be even more secretive, influential, and potentially dangerous than anything the world had seen before, operating from within America's most prestigious educational institution. This organization was Skull and Bones, founded in 1832 on the prestigious campus of Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, during a period when American society was rapidly expanding and transforming itself from a collection of former colonies into a continental power with global ambitions. The choice of Yale as their base wasn't accidental, as the university had already established itself as a training ground for America's political, economic, and cultural elite. At first glance, Skull and Bones appeared to be just a small, select group of Yale's most elite students, carefully chosen from America's wealthiest and most powerful families according to criteria that emphasized not just academic achievement but family connections, social status, and potential for future influence in important positions throughout American society. But within just a few short decades, this seemingly modest college society had evolved into an incredibly influential force that penetrated deep into the heart of American political, economic, and social power structures. Its members went on to occupy the highest positions in government, business, education, and culture, creating a network of influence that shaped American policy and international relations in ways that most citizens never realized or understood. What makes Skull and Bones uniquely dangerous and different from other elite social organizations is their method of selecting members and maintaining absolute secrecy about their activities, beliefs, and objectives. Each year, the society recruits only 15 students from Yale's senior class, typically choosing individuals from elite family backgrounds, sons and daughters of presidents, governors, senators, Supreme Court justices, and America's richest industrial and financial dynasties. The selection process itself is mysterious and apparently based on criteria that go far beyond academic achievement or even family connections. Prospective members are observed and evaluated for years before being approached, and the final selection seems to depend on psychological and personal characteristics that suggest suitability for lifetime membership in an organization with hidden purposes and serious responsibilities. Upon being selected for membership, new initiates participate in dark and disturbing secret initiation rituals that are designed to create intense psychological bonds among members while demonstrating their willingness to participate in activities that violate normal social conventions and moral boundaries. These ceremonies are conducted with absolute secrecy and involve swearing sacred oaths of loyalty that bind members for life to protect the society's secrets and support each other's interests. These secret rituals take place inside a mysterious building at Yale known simply as the Tomb, a windowless, fortress-like structure that was specifically designed to prevent any outsider from observing or overhearing what occurs within its walls. The building itself is heavily guarded and exclusively accessible to society members, creating an environment where the most sensitive activities can occur without any risk of exposure or interference. Within the tomb's carefully protected interior, bizarre and sometimes deeply disturbing rituals have been conducted for nearly 2 centuries, according to traditions that were established by the society's founders and passed down through generations of members. Some accounts that have leaked from former members describe initiates experiencing strange ceremonies involving death imagery, symbols, and activities that would shock and horrify ordinary people. These macabre rituals reportedly include lying in coffins while recounting intimate details of their sexual and personal histories, kissing human skulls while swearing oaths of absolute loyalty to the society, drinking from cups made from human bones, and participating in mock human sacrifices and other activities that simulate death and rebirth experiences designed to psychologically transform the participants. The psychological impact of these intense and disturbing experiences cannot be underestimated. They create powerful bonds among participants while demonstrating the society's power to demand absolute compliance with activities that violate every normal boundary of acceptable behavior. Members emerge from these initiation experiences fundamentally changed, with new loyalties and obligations that supersede their previous commitments to family, country, or conventional morality. These macabre rituals have helped establish Skull and Bones as one of America's most mysterious and feared secret societies, but their true power extends far beyond their ability to create psychological bonds among members through shared traumatic experiences. The society's real influence comes from its success in placing countless members in the highest positions of power throughout American society. Skull and Bones quickly became deeply embedded in American politics, economics, military leadership, intelligence agencies, and cultural institutions, creating a network of influence that spans every important sector of society. Their members have included presidents, Supreme Court justices, cabinet members, senators, military generals, CIA directors, ambassadors, corporate executives, bank presidents, and leaders of major foundations and cultural institutions. Over its nearly 2 centuries of existence, Skull and Bones has produced a vast network of incredibly influential individuals whose loyalty to each other and to the society's interests has enabled them to coordinate policies and decisions in ways that serve hidden agendas while appearing to result from normal democratic processes and market forces. Perhaps most famously, this elite network has included 2 U.S. presidents from the same family, George H.W. Bush and his son George W. Bush, both of whom were members of Skull and Bones during their time at Yale. But the Bush family connection represents just the most visible tip of a much larger iceberg of influence that includes hundreds of other members who have occupied key positions throughout the American power structure. Beyond the political sphere, Skull and Bones has also produced numerous corporate executives, financial leaders, media moguls, university presidents, foundation directors, and other influential figures who control the institutions that shape American culture, economics, and social policy. This creates opportunities for coordination and influence that extend far beyond what any single individual or organization could achieve through normal channels. Even more chilling from the perspective of democratic governance and individual freedom, Skull and Bones members are strongly encouraged and expected to secretly support one another throughout their careers, prioritizing the interests and objectives of the society above their official duties to employers, constituents, or the general public. This creates a shadow network of loyalty and mutual support that operates parallel to and sometimes in conflict with official institutions and democratic processes. Many researchers and investigative journalists believe that America's most significant decisions, from wars and military interventions to economic policies and social transformations, have been quietly influenced by Skull and Bones members working behind the scenes to advance agendas that serve the society's long-term objectives rather than the interests of the American people or democratic institutions. Evidence suggests that Skull and Bones maintains hidden connections and cooperative relationships with other powerful secret societies such as the Freemasons, Illuminati, and similar organizations in other countries, forming elements of a vast international network of secret organizations that coordinate their activities to shape global events according to shared principles and objectives that remain hidden from public scrutiny. They share ancient symbols, ritual practices, philosophical teachings, and strategic methods for gaining and maintaining power that were developed over centuries by previous secret societies. This suggests that Skull and Bones isn't simply an American phenomenon but part of a much larger and older tradition of secret societies that have influenced human civilization throughout history. Despite constant speculation, investigation, and criticism by journalists, researchers, and concerned citizens, Skull and Bones has never publicly disclosed its activities, objectives, or methods. Members consistently refuse to answer questions about their rituals, beliefs, or the nature of their ongoing obligations to the society, maintaining a wall of silence that only fuels public suspicion and concern. This absolute secrecy is perhaps their greatest source of power, because as long as the world doesn't truly understand what they're doing or why they're doing it, Skull and Bones remains free to pursue its hidden agenda without effective opposition or accountability. The combination of secrecy, wealth, political influence, and international connections makes them nearly invulnerable to conventional forms of scrutiny or control. Today, Skull and Bones continues operating at Yale exactly as it has for nearly 2 centuries, selecting 15 new elite students each year to continue their tradition of secrecy, mutual support, and hidden influence. Regardless of how dramatically the world changes around them, the society's fundamental structure, methods, and objectives remain constant, ensuring continuity of their influence across generations and political transformations. The darkest secrets of Skull and Bones remain carefully guarded, protected by oath-bound members who understand that revealing these mysteries would not only destroy their own careers and reputations, but potentially expose a network of influence and control that extends far beyond what most people can imagine or accept as possible in a supposedly democratic society. So the question that haunts researchers and concerned citizens remains unanswered. Is Skull and Bones truly manipulating American politics and perhaps world events from behind the scenes as many believe and fear? Or are these concerns simply conspiracy theories fueled by the society's own carefully cultivated mystery and the natural human tendency to see patterns and connections where none actually exist? One thing remains absolutely certain. As long as Skull and Bones continues to exist and operate in secrecy, while placing its members in positions of enormous power and influence, True democratic control over important decisions may never fully rest in the hands of ordinary citizens. Instead, real power may remain secretly concentrated among a privileged few who answer to hidden loyalties and pursue objectives that are never subjected to public debate or democratic accountability. While Skull and Bones secretly influenced American politics and policy from their fortress-like tomb at Yale University, across the Atlantic Ocean in late 19th century Europe, another mysterious and powerful force began to rise during the dazzling yet turbulent Victorian era. This was a time when ancient mystical knowledge was being rediscovered and re-examined, when countless secret societies sprang up throughout Europe, each pursuing their own ambitious goals and claiming to possess fragments of lost wisdom from earlier civilizations. Among all these diverse organizations, none proved more fascinating, influential, or ultimately significant than the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secret society that successfully revived ancient rituals of magic and sorcery while awakening supernatural forces that had supposedly lain dormant for thousands of years. This wasn't simply an academic exercise or historical curiosity, but a serious attempt to restore practical magical knowledge and make it available to properly prepared individuals in the modern world. The Golden Dawn was founded in London in 1888 by a small group of dedicated occultists, scholars, and mystics who had spent years studying ancient texts and attempting to reconstruct the magical practices of earlier civilizations. Unlike the political secret societies that focused on influencing governments and economic systems, the Golden Dawn concentrated specifically on developing and practicing ancient magical arts, astrology, alchemy, and mystical rituals that were designed to achieve higher states of human consciousness and unlock hidden potentials of the human mind and spirit. From its very beginning, the Golden Dawn quickly attracted attention and membership from Britain's intellectual elite, aristocratic circles, and cultural leaders who were fascinated by the possibility of accessing knowledge and abilities that transcended the limitations of conventional science and rational thinking. This wasn't simply intellectual curiosity, but a serious pursuit of practical techniques for personal transformation and spiritual development. The early members of the Golden Dawn were far from ordinary individuals seeking entertainment or social status. They included some of the most creative and influential figures of their era, including the legendary poet W.B. Yeats, whose mystical experiences with the order profoundly influenced his revolutionary poetry. Author Bram Stoker, the creator of Dracula, whose Gothic imagination was shaped by his exposure to genuine magical traditions, and most notably, Aleister Crowley, who would become one of the most controversial, influential, and feared occultists of the 20th century. These remarkable individuals were captivated by the possibility of gaining real control over supernatural powers through the society's ancient and mysterious rituals, rather than simply reading about such things in books or treating them as historical curiosities. They sought practical knowledge that would enable them to transcend ordinary human limitations and achieve extraordinary states of consciousness and capability. Golden Dawn's rituals and practices were incredibly intricate and mysterious, drawing heavily on authentic ancient texts from Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and especially the Jewish Kabbalah mystical traditions that had preserved sophisticated techniques for consciousness transformation and spiritual development through thousands of years of careful transmission from teacher to student. New initiates were guided through a strict hierarchical system that reflected genuine understanding of how consciousness develops and how individuals can be safely introduced to increasingly powerful techniques and experiences. Each level of advancement involved progressively deeper mystical experiences that were designed to gradually prepare members for the ultimate goal of direct communication with supernatural entities and mastery of invisible magical forces. The society believed, based on their study of ancient sources and their own experimental verification, that properly trained individuals could indeed achieve the extraordinary abilities described in historical accounts: direct communication with spiritual intelligences, mastery over natural forces, influence over events through the application of will and intention, and even the ability to reshape reality according to magical principles that operated beyond ordinary physical laws. Golden Dawn used many authentic ancient symbols and conducted elaborate rituals that incorporated traditional elements such as the six-pointed star, representing the integration of opposing forces, the pentagram symbolizing human mastery over the elements, alchemical symbols encoding the processes of transformation, and Egyptian deities like Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, and Osiris, the god of death and rebirth, who were invoked to provide guidance and power. One of their most famous and powerful ceremonies was the ritual of invoking light, a complex magical operation in which members gathered in specially prepared chambers illuminated only by candles and conducted elaborate invocations designed to summon spiritual energies and seek higher wisdom and magical power from realms beyond ordinary human perception. These weren't simply theatrical performances or psychological exercises, but serious attempts to establish actual contact with spiritual intelligences and to channel cosmic energies that could be directed toward specific practical objectives. Members reported profound experiences during these rituals that convinced them of the reality and effectiveness of their magical practices. Yet beyond personal spiritual enlightenment and the development of individual magical abilities, the Golden Dawn harbored deeper and more ambitious objectives that connected their work to the broader currents of social and political transformation that were reshaping the modern world. They believed that at their highest states of spiritual awakening and magical development, properly trained members could directly influence major world events and help guide human civilization toward more enlightened and harmonious conditions. The Golden Dawn considered their magical knowledge and spiritual techniques powerful enough to secretly influence politics, economics, culture, and social development from behind the scenes, working through invisible means to shape events according to higher spiritual principles rather than the ignorance, greed, and conflict that seemed to dominate ordinary human affairs. This wasn't megalomania or wishful thinking, but a serious magical philosophy based on their understanding of how consciousness and reality interact, and their belief that individuals who had achieved sufficient spiritual development and magical training could indeed influence events through non-physical means that were undetectable by conventional observation yet highly effective in practice. However, the remarkable success and growing popularity of the Golden Dawn throughout Europe soon led to serious internal conflicts and power struggles among its senior members that would ultimately prove more destructive than any external persecution or opposition. Just a few years after its founding, intense disagreements emerged among the society's leaders about fundamental questions regarding the direction of their work, the proper methods for training new members, and the ultimate objectives of their magical practices. These conflicts weren't simply personal disputes or ego clashes, but reflected genuine philosophical differences about how magical knowledge should be used and what responsibilities came with the possession of such powerful techniques. Some members favored a more conservative approach that emphasized personal spiritual development and careful preservation of traditional methods, while others wanted to experiment with new techniques and actively apply their magic to influence contemporary events. Aleister Crowley, who had become the society's most powerful, controversial, and influential figure, represented the more radical and experimental approach that ultimately brought him into irreconcilable conflict with the organization's more traditional leaders. His methods were considered too dangerous and his objectives too ambitious by those who preferred to work more carefully and secretly. Eventually, these internal battles led to Crowley's expulsion from the Golden Dawn, a decision that prompted him to establish his own competing magical order with different principles and methods. This split seriously weakened the original organization and created ongoing conflicts between rival magical societies that continues to influence the occult community today. The internal warfare and fragmentation that followed these disputes rapidly led to the collapse of the original Golden Dawn as a unified organization in the early 20th century. Just as Europe was entering the period of unprecedented upheaval and transformation that would include 2 world wars, numerous revolutions, and the complete restructuring of global civilization. Yet even though the official Golden Dawn organization disbanded and its leadership dispersed, the magical techniques, mystical knowledge, and spiritual practices they had developed and refined continued to spread widely throughout the Western world, inspiring numerous spiritual movements, magical societies, and esoteric organizations throughout the 20th century and beyond. Their influence can be traced through countless modern movements including Thelema, Crowley's own magical system, Wicca, modern witchcraft, various forms of ceremonial magic, and numerous other occult groups that continue to practice techniques and use symbols that were first systematized by the Golden Dawn. The books, manuscripts, and instructional materials left behind by Golden Dawn members became foundational texts for virtually every serious magical and esoteric organization that emerged in the English-speaking world during the past century. But one chilling question continues to haunt researchers and practitioners who study the historical record and contemporary influence of the Golden Dawn tradition. Did the Society's elite members truly achieve the ability to shape world events through magical rituals and supernatural powers, or were their claimed abilities merely elaborate self-deception created by their intense mystical practices and wishful thinking? Could there still be secret organizations today that directly inherited the Golden Dawn's magical practices and continue to work behind the scenes, using occult techniques to secretly manipulate our world in ways that conventional investigators could never detect or understand? The influence patterns and historical connections suggest this possibility cannot be dismissed as mere fantasy or paranoid speculation. Whatever the complete truth about their actual magical effectiveness, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn will always be remembered as the secret society that successfully brought ancient mystical secrets back into the modern world and made them available to individuals who were seeking alternatives to the purely materialistic worldview that dominated late 19th and early 20th century culture. Perhaps their true magical power still remains hidden and active, quietly awaiting the perfect historical moment to emerge from concealment and demonstrate the reality of forces and abilities that most people continue to dismiss as impossible superstition despite mounting evidence of their practical effectiveness in the hands of properly trained practitioners. Now, as we prepare to enter one of the darkest and most terrifying chapters in all of human history, we must confront an even deeper darkness that was emerging simultaneously with these magical and mystical movements. At the dawn of the 20th century, as the shadow of unprecedented warfare began to descend across Europe and the world, a particularly sinister and dangerous secret society emerged from the heart of Germany that would combine ancient mystical practices with modern racist ideology to create a toxic mixture that would ultimately give rise to Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. This organization was the Thule Society, the hidden group that planted the seeds of Aryan supremacy, developed the ideological foundations of Nazi racial theory, and provided the mystical framework that Adolf Hitler would embrace and transform into a political movement that led directly to World War II and the systematic murder of millions of innocent people throughout Europe and beyond. The Thule Society emerged in Munich in 1918, shortly after Germany's devastating defeat in World War I had left the country politically fragmented, economically ruined, and psychologically traumatized by the collapse of everything that had previously provided meaning and identity to German culture. Initially, this secretive group appeared to be just a small circle of wealthy intellectual Germans, aristocrats, and military officers who were deeply wounded by Germany's humiliation and desperately seeking ways to restore German pride and power. But their ambitions went far beyond simply restoring national sovereignty or economic prosperity. Their true goal was nothing less than the resurrection and global domination of what they believed to be a pure, superior Aryan race that was destined by cosmic law and divine mandate to rule over all other peoples and establish a new world order based on racial hierarchy and mystical principles rather than democratic equality or universal human rights. The name Thule itself was carefully chosen to evoke ancient Nordic legends about a mythical land in the far north that was believed by the Society's members to be the original homeland of the Aryan race. A race they considered to be biologically, spiritually, and intellectually superior to all other human populations. According to their twisted mythology, this pure Aryan race had once possessed advanced civilization and supernatural abilities that had been lost through racial mixing and cultural degeneration. Members of the Thule Society believed that by purifying their bloodline through selective breeding and eliminating inferior racial elements, the Aryan race could reclaim its lost spiritual strength and supernatural powers, ultimately achieving the biological and mystical superiority necessary to dominate the entire world and establish a thousand-year Reich that would bring order and enlightenment to lesser peoples through benevolent but absolute control. What made the Thule Society particularly dangerous and effective was their sophisticated blending of extreme nationalism with authentic ancient mystical rituals and occult practices that they believed would provide supernatural assistance for their political and racial objectives. Members regularly conducted bizarre ceremonies, seances, and secret rituals that were designed to summon supernatural energies from other realms and establish communication with spiritual entities who would support their cause. They genuinely believed these mystical practices allowed them to communicate directly with what they called Aryan supermen, advanced spiritual beings who had supposedly achieved higher levels of evolution and possessed the wisdom and power necessary to guide the transformation of human civilization according to cosmic principles that favored racial purity and hierarchical organization. The Thule Society also organized and funded secret expeditions to remote regions like Tibet, the Himalayas, and other locations where they hoped to find evidence and artifacts from the ancient Aryan civilization that would validate their racial theories and provide them with additional sources of mystical power and ancient wisdom that could be applied to their contemporary political objectives. Historical documents and archaeological evidence suggest that members of these expeditions did indeed return with mysterious ancient manuscripts, artifacts, and teachings that they claimed contained the keys to ultimate Aryan power and superiority. Whether these materials possessed the supernatural properties attributed to them remains controversial, but their psychological impact on society members was profound and significantly influenced their subsequent activities. But the most significant and ultimately catastrophic impact of the Thule Society wasn't limited to their mystical experiments and racist ideology. In 1919, this secret group secretly financed and supported the formation of the German Workers' Party, DAP, which was the direct predecessor of Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party and provided the organizational foundation for the political movement that would eventually seize control of Germany and launch World War II. It was members of the Thule Society who first discovered, recruited, and mentored Adolf Hitler when he was still an unknown and relatively powerless angry veteran struggling to find his place in post-war German society. They recognized his charismatic speaking ability, his intense hatred of Germany's enemies, and his psychological receptivity to their racial and mystical ideas, seeing in him the perfect instrument for translating their esoteric theories into practical political action. Hitler quickly became completely fascinated by the Thule Society's Aryan ideologies, mystical practices, and vision of German racial destiny, absorbing their teachings and incorporating them into his own developing worldview and political strategy. Indeed, it was the Thule Society that first introduced Hitler to the ancient swastika symbol, originally a sacred icon representing mystical power, spiritual transformation, and cosmic harmony, which Hitler adopted and perverted into the official emblem of the Nazi Party. The Society's rituals, symbols, philosophical framework, and racial doctrines profoundly shaped Hitler's worldview and provided the intellectual foundation for virtually every aspect of Nazi ideology, from their obsession with racial purity and Aryan supremacy to their belief in Germany's mystical destiny and their conviction that they were engaged in a cosmic struggle between superior and inferior races for control of human civilization. Once Hitler and the Nazi Party gained political power in Germany, they immediately began implementing the Thule Society's racial doctrines and mystical beliefs into official state policies, creating government programs dedicated to racial purification, establishing the ideological framework for the Holocaust, and founding secret organizations within the Nazi state that were dedicated to exploring occultism, astrology, alchemy, and other supernatural phenomena that could provide additional sources of power for the Third Reich. The Nazis established numerous clandestine research organizations, including Heinrich Himmler's Ahnenerbe, Ancestral Heritage, and other secretive groups that conducted expeditions to Tibet, searched for magical artifacts, performed occult rituals, and attempted to develop supernatural weapons and techniques that could ensure Nazi victory and establish their thousand-year Reich. All of these activities were directly inspired by the Thule Society's combination of mysticism and racial ideology. However, once Hitler had consolidated absolute dictatorial control over Germany and no longer needed the support of his early backers, the Thule Society quickly lost its prominence and influence within the Nazi movement. The organization was quietly disbanded by the Nazi regime, which had evolved beyond its origins and no longer wanted to acknowledge its connections to what might appear to be fringe mystical groups. But the dissolution of the Thule Society as a formal organization didn't mean that its dark ideas and mystical practices vanished from Nazi Germany. Many senior Nazi officials, particularly Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, continued to practice occult rituals, conduct mystical research, and pursue supernatural sources of power throughout the entire duration of the Third Reich, maintaining these activities until Nazi Germany finally collapsed in 1945. The influence of Thule Society ideas extended far beyond Germany itself, inspiring similar racist and mystical movements throughout Europe and even reaching sympathizers in other countries who were attracted to the combination of ancient mysticism, racial supremacy, and authoritarian political organization that the Nazis represented. This international network of fascist occultists continued operating even after Germany's defeat, preserving Nazi mystical ideas and racial theories for future generations. Today, nearly 8 decades after the end of World War II, the Thule Society remains one of history's most haunting and disturbing examples of how secret societies can influence major historical events with catastrophic consequences for millions of innocent people. They not only gave rise to Hitler and the Nazi movement but also demonstrated how ancient mystical knowledge and spiritual practices can be corrupted and perverted to serve evil purposes when they fall into the wrong hands. Perhaps the darkest and most disturbing aspect of the Thule Society's legacy is that the Aryan supremacist ideology and mystical practices they developed and promoted never truly disappeared from human civilization. Instead, these toxic ideas simply retreated into the shadows after Germany's defeat, where they have been preserved and transmitted by neo-Nazi groups, white supremacist organizations, and other extremist movements that continue to find inspiration in Thule Society teachings. Could secret organizations influenced by or directly descended from the Thule Society still exist today in various hidden forms throughout the world? Were their mystical rituals and claimed supernatural powers merely dangerous superstitions and psychological manipulation? Or did they genuinely tap into real spiritual forces that they then corrupted and misdirected toward evil purposes? These questions become even more disturbing when we consider that the techniques for combining mystical practices with political action that were pioneered by the Thule Society could potentially be adapted and applied by other groups with different but equally dangerous ideologies and objectives. The fundamental methods, using ancient symbols and rituals to create psychological bonds, employing secrecy to build exclusive communities, combining spiritual beliefs with political action, and claiming divine or cosmic authority for earthly power, remain as effective today as they were in the 1920s. Our journey through history's most secretive and influential organizations doesn't end with the Thule Society's dark legacy. The modern world continues to harbor secret societies whose power and influence may exceed anything we've encountered in our historical exploration. Today's clandestine organizations operate with greater sophistication, more advanced communication technologies, and deeper integration into global systems than their predecessors could have imagined. From the ancient priests of Heliopolis who claimed to control cosmic forces through the Eye of Horus, to the Chaldean Magi who believed they could communicate with celestial intelligences, from the Knights Templar who accumulated vast wealth while protecting mysterious artifacts, to the modern financial and political elites who gather in secret at Bohemian Grove and Bilderberg meetings, the pattern remains consistent across millennia. The thread that connects all these organizations isn't coincidental but represents something fundamental about human nature and the distribution of power in complex societies. Throughout history, those who possess secret knowledge, maintain exclusive networks, and operate beyond public scrutiny have consistently wielded influence far beyond what their visible resources would suggest possible. Whether these secret societies represent a continuous tradition passing ancient wisdom through hidden chains of initiation, or simply reflect recurring patterns of how power-seeking individuals organize themselves for maximum effectiveness, their impact on human civilization has been profound and undeniable. The symbols, rituals, and organizational methods we've explored continue to appear in contemporary contexts, suggesting that these ancient techniques for building loyalty, maintaining secrecy, and coordinating action remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. As we conclude this journey through the shadows of history, we're left with questions that may never be fully answered. Do these secret societies truly control world events from behind the scenes, or do they simply provide networking opportunities for individuals who would be influential regardless of their organizational affiliations? Are their rituals and symbols meaningful spiritual practices that connect participants to genuine sources of power and wisdom, or are they merely psychological tools for creating group cohesion and exclusivity? Perhaps the most important question of all is whether the existence of such secretive organizations is compatible with democratic governance and individual freedom. Can a truly free society coexist with groups that operate in complete secrecy while wielding enormous influence over the institutions and systems that govern our daily lives? The answer to that question may determine the future of human civilization itself. As we move forward into an increasingly complex and interconnected world, the tension between transparency and secrecy, between democratic accountability and elite coordination, between individual rights and organized power, will only become more critical. The secret societies we've explored tonight represent both humanity's greatest achievements and its darkest impulses, the preservation of ancient wisdom alongside the abuse of hidden power, the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment combined with the manipulation of earthly events, the noble goal of human advancement corrupted by the desire for exclusive control. Their story is our story, and their secrets are ultimately secrets about ourselves, about the human capacity for both transcendence and corruption, about our endless fascination with mystery and power, and about the eternal struggle between those who would rule from the shadows and those who demand that power operate in the light of public scrutiny. Whatever truths these secret societies guard, whatever influence they continue to wield, and whatever role they will play in humanity's future, one thing remains certain. As long as human beings seek power, knowledge, and meaning beyond the ordinary boundaries of daily existence, secret societies will continue to emerge, evolve, and shape the course of history in ways that most of us will never fully understand. The shadows of the past stretch into the present and extend toward the future, carrying with them the accumulated secrets of millennia. Whether those secrets will ultimately serve humanity's highest aspirations or its darkest impulses remains to be seen. The choice, as always, lies with each of us to seek truth over comfortable illusion, to demand transparency over convenient secrecy, and to ensure that power, however it is organized, remains accountable to the people it affects. Good night, and remember, the truth is out there, waiting for those brave enough to seek it.